hit the button. There we go. Let's go ahead and pray to our Father. Oh Lord, we thank you again that we can gather together today. We pray that you will give us your direction, your wisdom. Please lead us with your Spirit. Provide, give us wisdom. You know all the things that have to work for this technology to function well, and I just pray that you would bless everything. Bless my brother Cephas and all that are here with us today. Just pray that you'll continue to give us the power and the wisdom and everything we need to accomplish your work where you've put us.
Yes, Lord.
Thank you, Jesus. It's in your name we pray and we trust. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Well, it's good to see everyone here, and we're going to spend some time kind of working through the work that you've been doing, Cephas. It's a good work. Really pray that the Lord is going to use this abundance culture mentality that you are seeking to promote within your area. I just pray that the Lord is going to just bless that effort mightily. Let me just go over the agenda a bit. We'll spend some time with Cephas giving a brief presentation to kind of refresh our memories of the work, the topic. After that presentation, we will spend some time in discussion and questions, topics of concern, topics that you just like to discuss. So as you're listening to the presentation, I would ask you to be writing down some thoughts, some topics, some questions that you think might be helpful for our discussion. After we have that time, the three of us who are on the official voting committee, that would be Dr. Ko, Dr. Peabody, and myself, we will spend 10 or 15 minutes filling out an evaluation form. We'll take everyone out of the session for about, it'll probably take us at least 15 minutes. And then we'll bring everybody back in and kind of announce the results of that evaluation time. All right. Well, with that, welcome to all who are here. Let's just see who's all on board with us here. We've got, of course, Dr. Ko, Dr. Peabody, Murphy Croson. Good to see you. Yeah, and you'll probably be doing an oral review here sometime in the near future.
Hopefully next month or early April.
Good. All right. And then Cephas, why don't you introduce anyone else here from your group, your PLC?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Payne. I have a group of PLC here. I have some professors who are here on this side. The professors, we have worked with them for a long time. There's the director of a big leadership training center. So this side who has been my coach for a long time. There is a group of parents representing parents, the arm of life parents. And on the other side here, you can have some staff members who have been contributing to this work. Thank you very much.
Okay, good. Well, let's go ahead and start. Cephas, why don't you lead us through the presentation and we'll be listening.
Bill, excuse me just for a moment, if I may. This is Steve. I would like to just also introduce one other person that you may be seeing. That is Johnny Atang. He is a friend of mine who is in Myanmar. He lives in Yangon. So for him, it's about midnight. So he may drop out at some point or fall asleep and fall off his chair. I'm not sure. But right. Johnny is a good friend of mine who has a PhD in economics from Australia. He is from Myanmar, and we're working together on some educational things. So I invited him to participate, just to join in, because some of the things that Cephas is addressing with his dissertation are relevant to some of the things that Johnny and I are working together to try and address in Myanmar as well. So that's why I invited Johnny. Yeah.
Well, Dr. Atang, thank you for joining us. We're glad to have you.
Okay, it's my pleasure.
Right.
Hello, everyone.
I want to greet everybody as well.
Yes, Dr. Martin. She works in our associate registrar. I can't even remember all the different functions you're doing right now, Martine, but we just really love her and just thank the Lord for the work she's doing among us.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, I'm Sam Shoemaker. I'm a PLC
Wow.
for
Wow, that's
Cephas
cool.
as well.
Great. Thanks, Sam. Good to have you with us also.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, Cephas, we'll give the microphone to you and you can lead us.
Thank you very much, Dr. Payne, and I thank the Lord for this opportunity. And I've been working on this project for a long time, and the topic is transformational education for abundance culture. It is a value-centered, creative educational model for shifting African families and institutions from scarcity culture towards enduring holistic peace and development. And I've taken the case study of the Congolese Congo Paradox reversal. What has been the specific issue that I've dealt with is that Congo has been created by the Lord as a country whereby life should flourish in every area of life. But instead, there are so many questions that has been there in the mind of almost everyone, from leadership to the street people. They are asking questions of why. So many questions. So I said, let me try to penetrate this paradox and see what is really the problem. And the Congolese paradox is exposed at this point here. First, I want to talk about the reality about DR Congo, and second, the Congolese paradox. As it can be seen on the screen, Congo is a big country. It is the second largest country in Africa. It has vast natural resources. It is primarily Christian. It has primarily Christian population, and it has benefited annually over $2 billion in development assistance. However, in spite of all those, what is seen on the ground is just the opposite. There is persistent poverty and human misery. There is a persistent generational dehumanizing and unbearable social injustice, corruption, and the likes, and no tangible, visible, lasting transformation impact. Instead, there is a movement from hope to despair for more than half a century. And now, the main dangerous consequence of the persistence of the paradox is that hopelessness and the despair, as can be seen, has dominated in every area of life. That's why has the paradox persisted? And the intervention strategy plan has revealed that first of all the intervention that has been taken, all the agencies and the other organizations from government and outside, have been concentrating on addressing the symptom, as can be seen on this map here. The symptom, which is just what is seen, what is observable, like poverty and the likes. And the number two, they have been using imported problem-based approaches, as it can be seen here. The focus has been on what Africa lacks, on what Africa does not have, on what Africa needs. And for the first time, this project tried to address the paradox differently. And number one, it was by questioning the hidden deep dimension of culture instead of looking at just the symptom. And number two, it was to shift from the problem-based approaches to the use of appreciative inquiry, whereby we can make the focus on what Africa already has, on the existing assets in Africa. And secondly, because before there was lack of transformational education in everything that people were doing, this project attempted to develop and replicate a model of education that I call transformational education that can lead to the development of abundance culture. Now, I've talked about culture, that it has been focused, it is focusing on superficial things rather than deep culture. Here, as the cultural iceberg model can show it, most of the time when people talk about culture, they concentrate on behavior, which represents 20 to 25% of what we see. But the hidden and the non-observable part, which is the biggest part, is down there, and it's made of core values and interpretations. It is core values that once interpreted brings out different behaviors that lead to even those practices like corruption, injustice, and the likes. And the culture at the deep level of culture is influenced by so many factors. But among those factors, I focus on three factors on this project, focus on three factors, which are family, educational systems, and religion. Now, let's look at the hypothesis. So what? This project has hypothesized that the Congolese and African paradox has been created and systematized by a cross-generational scarcity culture. There is a culture that has been created, and when it became systematized generation for generation, it created a paradox. And where has the culture come from? The culture has been created or has resulted from the non-holistic and miseducation system. And what's the problem with that system? And past researchers have been saying that it is theoretical, it is bookish, but that was not really the problem. We have hypothesized that this system of education has been devoted of critical thinking, creative power mindset, and value orientation. So what? We think that by instilling critical thinking and creative power mindset and the value orientations in the system, in a new model of education, will end by producing a value-based holistic transformational education model, which once is propagated from a young age, is going to create a new culture, which I call abundance culture. And this culture, once diffused through different areas, it is going to produce peace, social justice, and prosperity, and that will be the reversal of the Congolese and African paradox. Now, let's see, what's the project strategy? How did we go about it? This project intended to take African individuals, families, schools, churches, and other institutions into a journey of transformation. And the point is that by using transformational education, this new kind of education, it is possible to move, and we have seen it, to move from scarcity culture to abundance culture. This is the movement that we want to see individuals, families, churches, schools make. And now, what is it? This educational model should be able to develop and instill critical thinking skills, creative mindset power, and the 5 great C's, the values. I'll talk about them in the next part, values. And by really revolving on building values, it will lead to abundance culture. And as generation pass on, the scarcity culture will be giving place to what really God wants to happen. The 5 great C's are presented this way, and these are 5 pillars of abundance culture. And they all revolve on one great pillar, which is the Great Commandment, as Jesus said it. And each pillar has some values as they can be seen there, but all those values are pointless. Those values would lead to humanistic intervention if they are not built into practical love and charity. That's what we have been trying to develop, and we have seen some results as it's going to be seen in the following slides. Now, what is the intervention plan? The intervention plan that has been used, technologies, as I said before, after the values, we have used the appreciative inquiry approach. And why that? Because of what Whitney and Bloom said. which depict exactly the true picture of DR Congo and Africa. It is said that appreciative inquiry is the most appropriate method for transforming a community's image of itself. When a community like DRC and many African countries, when their vital story lines include poverty, corruption, drugs, violence, and the likes, there is a need of a process to rediscover its positive core of values. And mass mobilized inquiry can help a community transmit the best of who they have been from generation to generation, from person to person and group to group. And it's this journey that we exactly want to start and continue in DR Congo and in other parts of Africa. Now, what was our intervention strategy that we've applied? Is Alpha Foundation. We started with trying to model the TIC through formal creative bilingual education at nursery level and primary level. And quickly we found that it was producing results that could not really address the whole paradox. And then it took to bring in also an intervention with others, those who have already completed their studies and who are in professions and who are in leadership positions, by giving them some training and coaching. And that's the purpose of TALK. And then as schools are going on, as we try to intervene in other schools, try to influence the government, there will be a need of teacher development, other teachers who will be able to model the TIC model of education. And all that, we have come to the point of finding that there will be need of cash, and this cash has to be produced. So that's where we brought in family funds for entrepreneurship and transformational education to model TIC through financial literacy, empowerment, and management. The two here in yellow have been launched, and this project presents results of the intervention at these two levels. And the third one, which is PET, is already has been launched after having completed this project. The research method that has been used, as I said, the project has been qualitative, appreciative inquiry oriented, with a case study of the school. At all the methods have benefited from participant observation method, because I could not reveal really what I was doing. People could fake their behavior. And results were evaluated by parents evaluation form, because they are the one sitting with the kids. This is a family-based project and approach. Educators generally who had to present their results, what they observe in the classroom, the challenges they are meeting every day. At public administration, we could see the degree of managers' involvement and the way we identified the person of wide influence. Now, what are the results? Some of the results, or the key results, is that we have happened to identify and develop an eclectic learning approach, finding that the development of critical thinking skills, creative mindset power, and the value orientation of focus, and having them blended in all the learning experience would not be easy without an appropriate learning approach. And that's where I developed what I call a DISC approach. The learning approach should be appreciated, discovery oriented, individualized by the respect of individual learners' personality, synergistic, bringing all the factors, spirit, mind, soul, and body together, and creative, leading to entrepreneurship skills and creative mindsets. Now, what are the transformational changes that occurred? First, in the public administration. Before our facilitation with the public administration, there was a strong resistance. The reform project interfered with the administration roles, and it created sabotage. And it was very, very difficult to lead the reform project. But during and after the facilitation intervention by the use of the intervention plan and appreciative method that are highlighted, we found that public servant managers could adhere and get involved. And the main result was that 923 public servants, including top managers, were able to be sent to retirement without any problem and any conflict as it used to be. Now let's move to Aroma of Life Family Academy, the school project. Based on the evaluation done by parents mostly, who have been trained to observe the transformation that their kids have been undergoing. We developed a form to evaluate all these elements and areas, moving from spiritual development, values, critical thinking, leadership, moving to personality, character, and the likes. What has been discovered is that all parts have been satisfied and said that they have witnessed change at over 70% in all areas. Most importantly is about character, because character has ranked highest. And this is what we're looking for, because the problem in the DRC and the most African countries is not about intellectual skills, but it's about character. If character can be developed, then the remaining can follow very easily, and we can live what really God made us to be. Now, what are the new ideas that I've learned from this journey? First, I've learned the biggest lesson that it is all about God. Transformation, and mostly cultural transformation, is solely God's business. And that's why we want to build really on the biblical values and the character, and ensure that love is central. And I've come to discover that the TIC model cannot be more than just a catalyst of the AC seat. Why? Because only those people with AC seats can be educated into AC champions. And I discovered with the public administration that the need for recognition should not be confused with resistance to change, because it was saying they resist the risk, but while they were looking for recognition. Age or level of education has nothing to do with transformation. I've seen older people embracing change faster and better than younger ones, and inversely. And the way the principles learned can be applied to other similar situations. What I can say is that TIC and the TIC model and the DISC approach has been designed to be self-replicable model with adaptation and contextualization. My aim was really to come up with a model, with an approach that can be used everywhere, anywhere, where people are suffering the same problems that we are enduring in DR Congo. And the fact that it is a family focused, and it stresses individual responsibility and existing assets, I think it can operate and it can work everywhere. So that's it. I've tried to develop a TIC model formula, and my postulate, which can be read from my project, I think talks more about that. I can elaborate on it maybe later. Now, I have been the main beneficiary of this project and of all my journey at BGU. It means even though supposing God could call me at any time, I could say that at least I've learned a lot and I've made a difference. First, personal transformation. I've moved from finger pointing, blaming like other Congolese and other Africans, blaming everyone but myself. I moved from that, and from passive prayers and the passive faith to discovering my mixed gifts and connect them to my calling and the life mission, and become more humbled, allowing other people's mistakes, being able to lead my team, take them into this transformational journey. And mostly, I've developed this concern of saying, I have to be the change that I want to see in my country. I have to be the transformation that I want to see in my continent. And I've dedicated all my life to that, thanks to what I have learned and the equipment that I've got. So the way I saw myself as a transformational, international, and prophetic change agent is that I believe the Lord has blessed me to be a multicultural and multi-level educator. And I have dedicated myself to promote the TIC model. I've seen results. I've been surprised every day, and the parents surprised. And also being a multilingual person who can navigate many cultures and international languages is another asset. And the connections that I have, not only in Kinshasa, in DRC, but in Africa, where we have been traveling with Sam Shoemaker and the others, I believe they position me well to really fulfill the purpose for which the Lord has created me, and all the experience and the lesson I've learned from Bakke Graduate University. Now, let me end this point by giving glory to to God and thanking all those vessels that the Lord has used. But before that, my next step is that from this stage here, I'm going to make sure that this project is translated in all our national languages and mostly in French, so as to be used by so many other people. And I have even people from radio and the televisions here who have come to get everything from this and start really a movement of mobilizing, of diffusing this information, that reversing the paradox is possible. And I'm going to launch and implement all the 4 axes as I presented them. And I have developed an Alpha Agenda 2036, whereby I believe that the aroma of life who are studying today, by 2036, they will be leaders of this country. So thank you very much. Let me express my gratitude to Miriam and my wife with the Kwambiliwas, Dr. Steve Cole, who has led me through this, the DGU family, who have helped me, coached me with their life, with their model, with their example. Sam and Nancy Shoemaker, with whom we have traveled Africa and who have connected me with Bakke Graduate University. Murphy Crowson, who has been more than a PLC. Pascal Isumbisho, who is a brother who has connected me and through whom I have got a point to come to. Yves Birere, Julian Riziki, my assistant, who has been working on my PLC, the Aroma of Life family, parents, and the Aroma students and the educators, and all the Crème family, which is my ministry. So with that said, I really thank you very much, and I'm ready for your comments, suggestions, orientations, corrections to perfect this work, not only today, but even in the future. I remain your student and your collaborator. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Cephas. We really appreciate this presentation. Very, very well done. Just appreciate the clarity and the use of your diagrams to visualize some of these transformative efforts that you are involved in there in the DR Congo. So let's spend some time now as we think through the dissertation, the concepts, the strategies, the research. Those of you who have been closely involved with Cephas on this project, I'd really appreciate you taking the lead now and begin to just bring forth some thoughts, some concepts that we might discuss for the next half hour or so. So go ahead, open microphone.
I'm sorry, Payne, I'm very sorry. I did not catch you well. There was a problem with the system here. Would you come back to what you have just said?
I was just saying that I really appreciate the work you've done. What we're going to do is spend some time in our in discussion, asking folks to bring forth topics that would be of help for us to talk about at this point in time. So let's take some time to think through some discussion topics.
Bill, if I may, this is Steve. Let me just kind of begin the questions here. Cephas, could you maybe talk to us just a little bit about what occurred before facilitation and how things changed? I don't recall exactly which slide that is, but you indicated that there was quite a lot of resistance prior to your doing this intervention. Could you describe some of that resistance that you encountered? And if perhaps you could give us a little bit of information about how that changed as you went through this process.
Thank you very much, Steve. Thank you very much for that question. Okay, then the World Bank has been intervening in DR Congo for a long time, and they reached a point where they discovered that everything had to move from the reform of the public administration, which is like the heart of all the activities. They found that trying to fight against corruption, trying to talk about literacy, development, and other things, without really helping the public administration be what it's supposed to be and be what it was meant to be, it was useless. So what they came to, they conducted the research and discovered that first thing is that the public administration was very old. So there are people who were there who are no longer working, especially at the top management, because for decades there was no retirement, there was no retirement plan, there was no promotion plan. Everything was stuck. And then that's where they started bringing they started this project of reform of the public administration, trying, and the first point was that they should send people on retirement so as to allow young people to come in and also to allow promotion of people to other levels. And these people, based on the status quo and all these kinds of corruption, people living on corruption, living on bribery, and so on, they didn't want. So those leading the public administration did all that they could have done to block the system, to ensure that nothing moves, nothing changes. And that's the strong resistance I talk about. And it was really complicated until after having made a lot of trial, the new minister who recruited me asked me to develop a project and a strategy how we could go about it. I developed it, and it was about recruiting facilitators, experts, facilitators who will work with the public administration to get them involved. And this is what I've been presenting during now our facilitation, based on the use of appreciative inquiry approach and all the things that we have learned. I had to go listen to the public managers, know what is really the problem, know what is not really going on. And that's when I discovered that they were finding that the project, the World Bank project, was impending with their mission, with their role, instead of just supporting, assisting them. Then I had to tell the project that, please, you need to adjust the way of doing things. You have to get these people involved, because the public administration syndicate were saying, whatever you do for me, without me, you doing it against me, then I'm not with you. So I worked a lot, developed strategies and tools for follow-up. We established what we call change cell groups in the public administration, where the public servants became the leaders of the change that they needed, and it gave the results. For the first time, 23 public servants, including top managers, could accept to be sent on retirement without any problem, and some of them were even recruited by the project to start coaching the young public servants. That's what I could say about, and up to now, I think the approach is going on well. It's functioning well, although the changes in the politics have brought some complications. Recently, the minister was inviting me to go and try to give again, the new minister to give some advice on what can be done. Thank you.
Yeah. And maybe just to follow up a little bit on that, Cephas, how did your experience there with the public administration and the process you went through affect how you approached the issue of that you're addressing with the Roma schools and TEAC model and so on?
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a really very good question. We are here with one of the old men that we have been traveling. in the administration. There is another one there. We have here some people work with the projects and one of the consultants. What I've discovered, I used my time with the public administration to test the hypothesis, to test how really has really the education system affected the culture and the way people do things. Yeah. That was number one. And for critical thinking and creative power, creative mindset power, and even values, if you go in the project, I set up some questions while we were recruiting university leavers to join the administration, and when we were also testing those who wanted promotion. And you could ask them questions, and you could discover, we could discover the low level of critical thinking. Let me just take an example. You ask someone who wants to be a head of department. You say, okay, suppose you're a head of department and people don't want to listen to you. You find the people, everyone is going in his way, and you have to reach results. What do you do? And he answers you, I will apply the text. It means I will apply the law. I'll sanction them. I'll write to them. I'll sack some people. You see that people don't have this capacity to go a bit further. When we ask them, suppose they ask you to bribe, they ask you to change documents. So because the boss wants to change financial documents, what do you do? And the answer you get is that he is the boss. What do I do? He's the boss. I'll do it that way. But when you come with the same question to the aroma of life who are at primary school, you come with the same kind of questions, they can easily tell you that's not a value. I will not do it. I will say, no, I don't do that. And I will ask them to understand why they are resisting, why they don't want to listen to me. I will go to them, I will ask for facilitation. You see that really the education system that we have gone through, which has been bookish and a teacher-centered, does not allow thinking, does not allow creativity, has resulted into what we are experiencing in the administration, because they can't solve problems. They have to wait for foreign aid to come to buy this and that, and when they come, they spoil everything through bribery and corruption. So I have really come to the point that by changing the system of education, by using the TIC model, we can have a different kind of public administration. Even through coaching, I have seen how people want to change, but they thought there was no alternative. But they found that, oh, there is an alternative. And those who were feeling very bad, they found a kind of encouragement to start voicing what they think they stand for. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Steve.
Okay. Let me just make a comment and a question possibly. I really appreciated the way that you used some of the what we can call them, you kind of led some of the interviewees through a situation to see how they might deal with a particular issue. And I think as you did that, you were both helping to see how well they were using critical thinking skills, creative power skills, etc. But you were also giving them practice, I think, in exercising some of those skills. So I appreciated that approach as you were working with some of these folks. I'm always interested in how the research that you do in a project such as this, how that leads to the transformational strategies. You've got a four axes strategy here: aroma, ASOTE, and the other two, SOCLE and FETE. Could you just talk a little bit, Cephas, on how you felt your research, as you talked with people, as you gathered data, how did that lead to the 4-point axis? Do you feel like that grew out of your research, or did you already have those 4 items in mind when you approached this project?
Thank you very much, Dr. Payne. No, I start by the end. This strategy has come out during the research. And it was towards the third year of implementation of the project with the Aroma of Life and the work with the public administration that I started thinking. At the beginning, the idea was that I could model the TIC approach just through formal education, because my initial idea was that we need to go and start working with young children from family and even nursery or kindergarten, primary, according to psychological research, that personality and values are built between age 0 and age, let's say 5 and 5 to 10. That was my initial idea. And as we started and went on, I could already discover that even parents have challenges. I could discover that educators that we have, educators themselves, have challenges. I've written my project that one of the discovery is that one of the biggest challenges has been to find educators, identify educators who have the abundance culture seeds, and help them grow into really transformational educators, because we can't live this approach without another kind of educators. And that was one of the challenges. And I started thinking that, okay, just giving this continuous development of the teachers that I have is not enough, because other teachers, other schools will still need to be impacted. Remember that my projects want to serve as a catalyst, just a model that can be replicated. What I do with my schools is just to test, like in a laboratory, try to test really how it works, instead of going out there to the government and other schools with theories, with the bookish things, because Congolese have written, we have many professors, they have written, they have done wonderful research. I said, let me try it on the ground. And I can say, guys, look, this is what we are trying to do, and this is how it can work. Then that's where the idea of the second year, the ASOT, which is Aroma School of Transformational Educators, came in. That there will be a need to equip other teachers. We can have them, we can equip and train basic educators within our premises, but we can also do the kind of school-based training. And this idea of school-based training comes from my experience with the reform of education in Rwanda that I conducted as a director of education with the International Education Exchange, which is a US-based organization that pioneered the reform of education in Rwanda. That's where we were using school-based teacher training. But I said, oh, I think this can work. We need really to help teachers. We not bring them together, but this can work. And then at this point here already, we could move from just the idea of group of school, Aroma group of school, to a broader idea of the Aroma Foundation. Because it has now school, when we go as a school, other schools, because of the scarcity culture, will resist us because of competition idea. But when we go as a foundation, when we go as an organization that is supporting the government, supporting other schools and other agencies involved in education and in holistic transformation, will be the most welcome. That's why I started thinking about that, sharing it with educational leaders. They appreciated that, and it led to the creation of the Aroma of Life Family Academy Foundation, whereby the group of schools become just one part, one arts, and this ASOT becomes another part. And then this year, the SOCLE School of Communication, Leadership, and Entrepreneurship, the idea came as I've been working with the public administration and trying to influence the person of white influence and the person of white access in churches and elsewhere. I said, no, ASOT will not help them. The school will not help them. We need another kind of school, just which will concentrate on modeling TIC through consultancy, through mobilization, workshop, forums, and things like that, and even through coaching. I'm doing a lot of coaching. There are young leaders who are in the room here who come for coaching and mentorship, who have networks of young people in Africa. This is how all this came in. And then we said, we are building we are building, and we want really to promote entrepreneurship. We want to promote these people who can tap into the existing assets, these people who can think creatively to think about solutions, to think about what they can do for themselves, for their environment. And now these people will need money. And we have a system of banking, which is that they can only lend to those who already have money. Now, what about these who don't have money, who want to take from the squad? Because we want to work with rural and with the least one, with the people who do not have access to resources. How do we do it? How do we really model this asset base that we can build something from what we have and from where we have? That's where the idea of the family funds for entrepreneurship and transformational education came in, that let's create something like a fund, which has already started. We have recruited one of the parents who have worked a lot with these financial microfinance institutions, and who is now working with us, who is the director of operations with us, and he has started bringing FET. FET has already started. Now, the idea is that we have identified some children who have really capacities, who are well prepared, who are gifted by God to become influential in their families and in the society. But financially, the family has some problems. We want not only to have to give money to the kids or a scholarship, but to equip the family. Because by giving, I don't believe in this system of just giving scholarship to kids, but still these kids need to eat at home. They need to eat at home, they need to sleep, they need light to revise their notes. So we want to equip families, it is called family fund, equip families to be able to take care of their kids, and equipping them by educating them first to believe in themselves and to tap into what they have, equipping them to have some financial literacy skills and whatever. Because one of the things in Africa, I think, is that poverty is not the fact that maybe people do not produce, but because people are more consumers than producers. They consume even what they haven't produced yet. So we want to help families to understand that. Don't wait for a lot or for a help coming from elsewhere. With what you have, by some discipline and some training and synergizing with others and with a big vision, you can reach a point of developing your family and helping other people. Not only that, in 2 years or 3 years, we'll have our students already starting secondary school, and we want them to start becoming entrepreneurial while they are studying. And they will need cash, they will need money. So we tell parents, please, you can start already investing and putting something for your kids. They open account for their children, they open account for themselves, and it also solves the problem of having children out of schools because of school fees. I don't know if it exists in the USA, but here, you know, for a long time, for many years, parents have been supporting paying teachers, be it in private sector or public sectors. And there was a very bad system of kicking children out of school because of non-payment. Your parents has not yet paid out of classroom, and we don't know what happened to those kids outside. PET is trying we are setting it to solve that problem. So this is how it came. It came like a circle from insights that I've been getting. And I have to mention this. It is when I went to Ethiopia, to Addis Ababa for the overture, that I really got, it was like an eye-opener, because we visited we visited 2 or 3 projects, and I could see what they have done, how they've gone about it, and the kind of transformation and impact that they have made. I said, if it has worked in Addis Ababa and Ethiopia, it will work in DR Congo. So it has been a process through the work, through this project, the coaching, the questioning that I've been getting from lecturers, from others, the feedback I've been getting from parents, from educators, and from public administrative managers, that we came up with these intervention strategies and believe that it is going to help. We want it to be self-replicable. It is not Alpha Foundation that will do everything. We'll educate people, others who otherwise, how they can set up an assault or a school to help teachers. will help people, churches and other ones, how they can start something like FEDs, how they can build finances and equip people from the squad. So it is a way of seeing how we can model and then get diffuse and get it replicated.
All right, thank you so much, Cephas. One of the personal transformation results you said in your own life is going from passionless prayer to, I'm assuming, much more passion. I feel like the Lord has really given you a great passion for the work, and that's what it's going to take, is that someone that the Lord has given that passion to just keep at it. Like you say, I think you also made the idea of repeating. You keep repeating the abundance mentality, and that will hopefully eventually replace that scarcity mentality. And also, I appreciate, just as you've worked with leaders, and of course, another one of the transformational principles is that you bring the leaders along who are helping you do the work, rather than just imposing your program upon them. They are involved in helping bring that program forth, and I think you've demonstrated that well. Others would like to jump in now with questions and thoughts.
Yeah, Cephas, this is Larry here. Thank you so much for this project. This is an exciting dissertation, and I just thank you for your passion, as Bill was saying. I had a question. I see you're emphasizing family and schools and government. The question is, to what degree have you involved the business community, business leaders, entrepreneurs, because they're going to be key if the family is going to have some income. To what degree have you involved that community?
Thank you very much for the question, Larry Peabody. Those communities are what I call person of professional of wide influence and a professional of wide access. It is said that by identifying professional of wide influence, and these are people working in a profession like medical doctors, like lawyers, and so on, and the people working mostly in institutions that manipulate money, that's business people, by identifying them and mostly identifying those who have abundance culture seeds, those who have that heart, those who also have that passion. That's where I talk about synergy. By synergizing them, by helping them understand that there is a way of influencing more instead of giving. We have organizations, we have business people, we have these media organizations, these communication organizations, we have the banks that sometimes yearly they are there, they go out to help communities. And then now the idea is to say that, okay, look, helping community is like giving them fish. You give them fish at Christmas, they eat, and then it is finished. What if you look at this model here, you look at the TIC model and you see how you can get involved, you can help educate and empower community to discover their assets. Not, as I said before, not only considering them as people in need, but trying to find out these people here, what do they have, and then how can business people come in to connect with what really these people are doing. We have business people who are Christians. You know, Congo is, as I wrote in my citation, 85 up to 85% of the claim to be Christians. So we have so many leaders in politics, in business, in non-governmental organizations, and in many projects who are Christian. And we think that these people being Christians, by working even with churches, we can use pastors, we can use church leaders to educate, to talk differently, to talk to these people and try to call them to understand, as the Bible says, why they have the resources that they have, to understand that they are stewards, that they are just stewards, that is all about God. So if churches can change the way of talking to business people, the way of talking to to these people who are in professional on influence position, we believe that it can work well, because I believe the church in Congo has really power over business people and all other people. We have some few business people, we have some banking, because school is very strategic. I call it a net. I call it a net whereby we bring so many people of wide influence together. In the room here, we have business people. In the room here, we have lawyers. In the room here, we have people who work at different ministries. And we have people here who are connected to the government to different, at different levels. We are connected to their friends who are business people and so on. When they understand, because it can go through their social network, they can very easily connect with those communities. Apart from that, by using media, as I said, and going toward them, we need them because they have money, not only to support us, but to do differently what they do in the community, or to start doing what they were not doing, taking the appreciative orientation and tapping into developing the abundance culture rather than just helping like that. I don't know if I've addressed the question properly.
Yeah, that brought up another comment. At least here in the United States, the churches don't seem very well equipped to speak to business people in terms of workplace issues. I don't know how that is in Congo, but here at least, there are very few churches that really have a handle on workplace theology. How is it there?
Yeah, thank you very much. That's really true. That's what I'm saying, that the role of this project, the role of Alpha Foundation would be to equip people to theology of work, introduce people to all these ideas. I remember, I think Martin is following us. Recently, we had a conference here that brought together theology professors and so many other people. And Martin sent a paper on theology of work. And most of pastors in the conference were saying that it is the first time for us to hear about the concept of theology of work. It's the first time. So it is what the Bible says about what I wrote in the project about Hosea 4:6. My people is destroyed for lack of knowledge. The church in Congo is well positioned to do what? To equip, to influence even the government. It is well positioned. But it has, I think, I'm sorry, I would say that it seems as if it has lost its saltiness. It seems as if it is trying to become a prostitute. It has lost its let's say, firstborn rights. The church should be influencing a politician. People should be coming to the church and the pastors and the men of God to seek advice and so on. But it's now some pastors and some churches going and trying to depend on politicians. So it is scarcity mentality. They need training, they need equipping, and again, it's not altered by identifying those who are ready for that. I've been working with one church where I fellowship. I've conducted more than 2 Bible-based entrepreneurship, let's say, workshop, and more than 5 people or 6, including the pastor and his wife. I don't know. They were supposed to be here. They started some business, and we are now organizing to see how to help them, how to continue helping them. And I'm connected with the network of Protestant churches and revival churches at the highest level. So there is a way to influence them by some professors who are here. And again, let me mention and underline this point here. My strong belief, and the main point that I've made in my project and what I've discovered is that I will not suffer from this Elijah syndrome, saying I'm the only one with this idea. I am the first to think about this. No, I have been maybe the first to think about how to approach this, how to approach differently, how to frame a strategy, a communication, and the best strategy. There are so many pastors, there are so many leaders, there are so many business people who I think they are burning with the desire to see how we can do things differently and become really what the Lord wants us to be, to become a holistic church, to become a church that can affect and impact and bring shalom on earth and in our communities.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
This is Steve, if I may. Could you maybe share with us a little bit about some of the books that you were influenced by, or some of the different literature, articles, those kind of things, that if you were to educate some of us on how to go about doing the things that you have accomplished with your project, what resources would you have us read through or especially look at?
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a great question. The first resource that I would recommend is the Bible. That's the first. From Genesis, I demonstrate in the project, from Genesis to Revelation, the Bible is modeling really the transformational education model. We are in Genesis chapter 1, chapter 2, God created humankind. And I read in the first thing that God did after blessing them. After blessing, the first thing was to educate them on who they are, what they should do, what they should not do, and so on and so forth. That was a way for God to show us that, hey, education, this is my way of educating. Let me see, I think there is a slide here. And number two, I still in the Bible. I've read other very influential books, and I can recommend some of them. I've named some of them, but the Bible stands alone because I think all those books have been influenced by the Bible. I think all those who wrote those books have been led by the Bible. I take a book like Job Shadowing Daniel that I read, and that is one of my main books by Larry P. Body. That's a fantastic book because from there I discovered, for example, one principle that Daniel could not change. Daniel would remain constant and keep the values that he got from his family. Daniel left his family, even though he was deported, knowing who he was, knowing who was Yahweh, knowing what was really their values, what was acceptable, what was not acceptable. In spite of all the time, in spite of all the influence that he could get where he was, he could not. He said, no, this I cannot do. This I cannot do. We can see critical thinking in Daniel. We can see creative minds. We can see all these things I'm talking about in many characters. Let me talk about this saying that education should focus on developing a creativity and entrepreneurial mindset, and it should be as an existing asset base. Let's just take the case of Noah. In Genesis, at the beginning, God has a plan, and He wants to accomplish His plan of destroying the world and creating a new order. And He calls Noah, and by calling Noah, what He does, He educates Noah on what to do. He does not give anything to Noah because He believes that Noah has everything that it takes to do what to accomplish what God gave him. And this is an example that God wants us really to tap into the asset base. There are so many examples that I've given. Here there are some scriptures. For example, the miracle of Jesus' multiplication of 5 bread and 2 fish. The key element there in the framework of this project is that the 2 fish and the 5 breads were in the community, and they belong to a little boy. That's a little boy that we can neglect, and this is a way of teaching people that it is sometimes what we neglect, what we don't see, which would make the difference if we can put it, we can use our mind and put it in the hands of the Lord. But there again, we can see 2 mindsets. we can see one mindset from Philip, whom Jesus asked, where shall we buy bread to feed these people? And we can see scarcity-based mindset. I'm sorry I call it that way to exemplify it. And we can see Andrew, who comes in and say, hey, look, this is what we have. It is small, it is but we have something here. And everything went from that. Here, as I displayed, here are some literature, some books that really influenced that I went through. Ekwa's book, which is entitled like called Trai, or School Betrayed. Wrote, he has been a scholar who has led Catholic educational projects from the independence, even before independence, up to the National Sovereign Conference, where they discussed and they reframed the policy of education in Congo. And he wrote a book saying that school is not responsible of what is happening, because everyone is saying the poor quality of education. Everyone is saying teachers have become corrupted. Everyone is saying we don't know what is happening. Schools and universities are producing fake results. So he wrote a book, and in this book, he started from before even the arrival of colonialists. And he depicted how the education system was, and during colonialism, and even after colonialism. So he depicted all this story, and it helped me see that scarcity-based education was not brought by colonialists, as so many people may think. It was from even our traditional way of educating, where children were not allowed to think critically. The elders in the community had to do the thinking, and the younger generation had to do the following. So it started from that. So Ekwa's book influenced and helped a lot. And it is from Ekwa's book that I found the chart of national education, which was developed as a roadmap that could take Congo to transformation. And I was surprised to see some of the ideas that I've been developing and studying and reading from other books. There is Hofstede's book with a champion in studies about culture documentation. The book is there. And there's this article here, and it is Steve, thank you very much, who sent this article to me. The Paradox of Congo, how the world's wealthiest country became home to the world's poorest people. And it was showing these things, but it could not go deep to find this cultural dimension, this educational dimension. It was just doing this parallelism. And in leadership and entrepreneurship and communication, there is a book by Ford, Transforming Leadership, Jesus' way of creating vision, shaping values, and empowering change. This was really at the heart of the 5 great C's that I'm trying to develop with values at the center, seeing that, and that's where I build it's all about God, it's all about Jesus. Let's go back to Jesus' model and so on. Not just Everest from the division of innovations, I could find really ideas on how to communicate new ideas, coupling it and matching it with Jesus' model. That's where I found that. Don't go and say, guys, I'm bringing you something new. Change this, start doing this. No. Say, how do you go about it? Because from the time you want to talk innovation, those proponents of the old or the existence will build a barrier, start to eliminate it. So it gives strategies really on how to communicate change without offending people, but bringing them on the board, tapping into their needs. They can see their needs because they are the ones doing it. And the power of appreciative inquiry, a practical guide to positive change. I read so many books on appreciative inquiry, but this one was really targeting, was really at the heart of what I was doing, a practical guide to positive change. And the role of the church and the transformation, the main book that I have underlined every job shadowing Daniel, walking the talk at work. I share it with my staff members saying, we have to be the model. This is our church. We spend time here. We are here at 7 o'clock. We leave this place at Aroma at 5 o'clock. So this is our community. This is our church. This is our ministry. So we have to be here. Daniel has never preached on a pulpit, but he has made the change. We are talking about him. We have people called Daniel today because of what he did in the government area. I use this to talk about to influence Christian leaders who are in the politics and in business. And Swanson, they help a lot. The book is there. And the White runs the book. I bought this copy when I was in Addis Ababa. So those are really some of the key literature that I've been going through and through again. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that.
All right, thank you, Cephas. Any others that would like to join in the discussion?
I don't know whether you can hear me or not. I'm
Yes.
Sam Shoemaker. Yeah, I wanted to just say how much I've enjoyed being a little bit on the journey with Cephas as he's been doing this project over the past few years. We met each other in Kigali, Rwanda in 2005, and we've worked together in multiple countries of Africa in trainings. And I appreciate you expressing, Brother Cephas, what you learned in doing this project, learning to develop transformational leaders. And I see that you have also been becoming a transformational leader in the process of what you've been learning in this whole time. So it's a great blessing to see how you've developed and what your vision has how it has developed for the future. So I had a couple of questions. One is maybe I'm just wondering if you could produce a list of your acronyms that you use throughout, because sometimes I guess I'm getting old and becoming forgetful. I do know what aroma stands for, but there are some of those acronyms that maybe if I had a list, I could understand what you're talking about in certain spaces.
Yeah, I will do that.
Actually, you can just populate the list of abbreviations at the beginning of your thesis.
Okay, yeah, that would help. That would help,
Yeah.
I think. I would go ahead and say that I'm not an academician, although I have been teaching some at the undergraduate level in the past. But I'd just like to ask if this project that you've worked on, that is very, very complicated, many books in the bibliography that you have, and many references. I appreciate so much the breadth of it and the vision that seems to come out of it. But I'm wondering if this project would be able to be adapted and published in some way that would help leaders to be able to have a copy of this in some way, that they more in the language of the common person rather than the academic mindset. I don't know whether that's a possibility down the road, but I think it could be very, very helpful, because this scarcity culture is so common all over in many cultures in Africa. And I think it would be very, very helpful, your approach by learning to listen to people and to hear their frustrations about the system as it exists, whether they're in business, whether they're in government administration or whatever, or even in educational contexts as well. Is there a possibility of having it published down the road?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sam. In the last slides where I said next step, I have mentioned that the next step from now is try to translate this work into different languages that can be to allow it to be where to be approached by so many people. Maybe it will not be in the fashion really of the project and academic project like this, but as you say, adapt it to be used, producing something like guides and a guide to this and that, a practical guide to take, a practical guide to this and that. That is what I'm going to do, and part of what I'm going to do, I said again in the last slide, is to dedicate my life to writing. Yes, God gave me the writing gift and the language gift. I can write. I don't need translators. I can write in different languages, including Kinyarwanda, for the time that we spent together there. That's what I'm going to do, and I will write it as a pedagogue. I will be writing as a teacher, really trying to teach and they communicate what can be done. I will do that. I know it was even our project before even starting writing this thing that we should publish some of the work that I've done. I'll do that. I will send you a calendar, a chronogram on when I publish the first one.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a second question. Do you have a strategy to build a network of transformational leaders in schools and across in different nations of Africa?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's a very good question. That's my vision, because when I talk about synergy, you know, as you said, the acronym, we have this Aroma of Life Family Academy Foundation. The idea is that with that, we can connect very easily with other non-governmental organizations. We can connect very easily with churches, and we can connect very easily with the government. Besides that, maybe you were forgotten, I have a company that can allow us, that's a twin synergy, to allow us connect very easily with investors in the framework of social entrepreneurship or social business. Now, coming back straight to your question, that's the idea. As the scarcity culture is dominant almost everywhere, I can't do it by myself. That's why I consider my role as a vision caster. I consider my role as a catalyst, just a catalyst. And from effective collaboration leadership module that I took, I got a lot of strategies on how to mobilize, how to identify people, how to create round tables, how to create facilitation, how to network. I also read, I did not mention them here, but I also read so many books on how to use social medias, and you know my background is from intercultural communication, from Stellenbosch University. I've been equipped in that. So I will bring all this together, my linguistic background, my communication background, my pedagogical background together to ensure really that we build these networks. For example, we have a network of women that we call the Aroma Mothers Network. Now they are here, the coordinators here. Every year, when others are celebrating the International Women's Day, they celebrate the Aroma Mothers Day. They celebrate it. It's a day where they write topics, they discuss about these abundance culture issues in their families, and they invite even people from the government and people from other associations. So every year we see this expanding, and this year we did not prepare in time. Next year they are preparing to make it regional, invite women from Rwanda, from Uganda, from other African countries.
Yeah.
Even from Aroma School, the strategy to allow Aroma to go international quickly is that I'm now recruiting international staff. We are with Cameroonian here, we are bringing someone from Benin, we have someone from Congo, Brazzaville, and to allow them that as they are learning here, we send them, as they go with the seeds. They go with the seeds. So the idea really, and I will need your coaching again on that, the coaching of everyone. That's the target. The target is to mobilize as many people, as many professional of wide influence as many as possible, because it is urgent. It is urgent. People are hopeless. People are waiting to see really the kingdom of God coming. They are waiting to see that really shalom exists, and it is possible. We have the formula, we believe.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's, I think you're well aware that one of the major factors in the reason why the genocide happened in Rwanda was because of this scarcity mentality and a culture in their minds that one people group was much richer than another people group. And so they wanted to exterminate them. So I think it's very vital your vision to expand this. I would love to have maybe a later conversation to see how we could help to build that network across the continent. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And you know, I think you remember that Aroma of Life is in Kigali. The project that I started in Kigali is still there. It has suffered growth problem because of my absence, but it is there, and the people believe in it, and this transformation disciples are getting made. Brother Frankie, that whom you know very well, is connecting now the school in Goma and the project in Goma, the project in Kigali, and is doing great work. So that's it. We are targeting Bujumbura, Congo, Brazzaville, and so on, planting the seed. As we said, I remember this concept that we developed, I think, in Lesotho, when we were in Lesotho discussing all around the table. We said it is like putting fire on dry grass. We put fire on dry grass, and we identify where dry grass is. We just put fire that we have of the model, and we trust the Lord to do what? To bring the increase, as the Bible says, because it is all about God.
Yeah, amen. True.
Yes.
All about God.
Yes.
Okay. Great.
If I may, I just would like to say a few things.
Go ahead, Murphy.
Where are you, Murphy?
I'm in North Africa. So, Cephas, I just want to say congratulations on all of the work. I remember when this started many years ago, and the transformation in you and your ministry and your life has been tremendous. Amen. You have become a transformational leader through this process who is also making transformational leaders. And I'm proud of you, and I congratulate you. The second thing that I really appreciate about your presentation, but even your work, is that you took the theories and the concepts and you created new working models. Not just a bunch of talk, a bunch of theory, a bunch of seminars, a bunch of training, but you actually took the principles, tested them, and made working live models. One of the things that Africa needs is not just more ideas, but people who have actually integrated what they've learned and create a new culture. Rather than talking about abundance culture, you've actually created it. Come and see what I'm talking about. And I just wanted to say congratulations and job well done.
Thank you, Baba. You have made it. Thank you very much. I have to say thank you very much. You know what you have done, the great work you have done, revising my papers at the very beginning there. Revising them, proofreading them, all the time we had spent together in prayers and so on. It has brought us to this point, and I still rely on that kind of cooperation as we had together to bring transformation on this continent. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
I was just looking at a list of students that are graduating this year, and there's of course we've got Murphy Croson here working also in Rwanda. Arissa Mutabasi, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, that Dr. Martin has been working with. He's also been working in Rwanda. He's doing a project called What's in Your Hand, which is the same idea in terms of, he uses the Moses theme that, the Lord said, what's in your hand? And what was in his hand, the Lord could use for his purposes, and which is kind of the same thing that you're doing there. Anyway, there's several. It'd be interesting just to start to network with some of the students. I mean, students who have been studying transformational leadership at BGU. It would be interesting just to start to gather a group of students, graduates from BGU who are in the African continent, to begin to have a think tank together. I think maybe having some kind of online sessions or however you choose to do that, I think would be a great productive time. I think if those of you who are very familiar with what's on the ground in the various areas. Go ahead, Martin.
Dr. Reju in Nigeria.
Yes.
His focus is really on what we call homegrown solutions, and I can send you a book, Cephas. It's written. I mean, the title of the book are 2 books published by Global Ethics, Homegrown Solutions in Africa, and he has developed a network, and maybe he can be mobilized to just enlarge his network in this area. The focus of the Nairobi immersion is going to be on homegrown solutions as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Martin. Thank you for everything.
It's really a pleasure to see the Lord's
Thank you for your
advice.
advice. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think we're going to probably need to move into an evaluation session because of time. Dr. Peabody did put a note in the chat room of someone that you might want to contact in relationship to having your dissertation published. He's with an organization called Books for Africa, and Dr. Peabody did put his email address there in the chat room. So if you click on the chat icon at the bottom of your screen, you could just copy and paste that information into another document. All right, any other comments before I bring people out of the session for a little bit? And the 3 of us on the voting committee will need to talk for a few minutes.
I might not be able to stay for the ending due to other constraints, but I'll try my best.
Okay, if you'd like to be coming to the evaluation session, that'd be fine too, of course, Martin. Okay, well, that's what I'm going to do. Your screen is going to say something like you're on hold. So, you can go have some coffee or whatever you'd like to do for 10 or 15 minutes while those of us on the voting committee talk, and we have to fill out a little form, an evaluation form that we need to submit into your student record.
Murphy, do you happen to have a way to contact Cephas by like WhatsApp or some other messaging?
I send him WhatsApp, and he has 2 checks if he received it, and I'm only got 1 check. So I don't know if his internet went down or the Kinshasa power grid went down. Sometimes that happens.
That's a possibility. I kept seeing an icon come up on his screen saying the Wi-Fi connection was disconnecting.
That could be. That could be. Yeah, he had a backup generator set up, I know, because he was trying to cover every contingency, but you can't control the internet oftentimes there.
Okay.
Wow. So what do we do in a situation like this then, Bill, generally?
I may have to just have you, Steve, possibly as a supervisor, go ahead and communicate the results. Maybe that will be our best shot. I think we just really want to emphasize the fact that this was just really a stellar dissertation. I want to emphasize that, first of all, okay, to him.
Yeah.
Just the work and the creative work that he's done. And just telling him, this is one of the dissertations that I'll probably use as a model for my classes. And then you could just mention, a few of our recommendations.
Sure. You know what we could do, since you're recording this part of the session? Why don't we just kind of pretend he's here and put that into the recording, and I can refer him to that as well, so he can hear your voice and Larry's and others in our response. How would that be?
Well, let me go ahead and take the lead then, and then I'll have each of you maybe put in a congratulations. And Cephas, we think your connection maybe dropped out, and we're really sorry about that. But we want to first of all just say congratulations on a work well done. And we just thank you for the work that you've done, the creative work. You know, the very concepts that you're trying to promote in terms of critical thinking, you know, creative mindset, and establishing some biblical godly values. You've demonstrated those very concepts, I think, just in the kind of work that you're doing among leaders, parents, and the various people that the Lord has connected you with. So well, I just want to tell you, you know, we've just given you a pass, of course. That's all we have in terms of our options anymore. But we would say, if anything, you would have a strong pass, and we just really thank you for the work. I'll just let anybody else congratulate you first, and then I'll just give you a few of our recommendations just to even make the project better.
Well, this is Steve Cephas, and I just want to also echo my congratulations to you for the job well done. And I'm very delighted that my colleagues Bill and Larry and Martine also, while she was on, saw your work as exemplary. And I can't tell you how pleased I am with that result. It's very, very encouraging to me also to see your work recognized so well. And I'll also just say that it has been truly a pleasure to work with you. And I've learned probably every bit as much as anybody by what you have done by being able to work with you on this project. So congratulations, Dr. Kwambiliwa. We are very pleased to be able to welcome you into that group, and look forward to seeing you at graduation.
Cephas, this is Larry. I'll just add my congratulations. And every once in a while, a dissertation comes along that is outstanding and very encouraging. And just to see the graduate level thinking and graduate level writing that you've put into this is really heartening. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to work alongside here, just in my minor role as a second reader.
Okay.
Cephas, I also wanted to say congratulations. I've enjoyed the journey in BG with you. I'm a little jealous. I started before you and you finished before me. So congratulations on not only catching up, but passing me. Again, as I said before, I've seen you transform personally. And then, you know, your room was filled with people. And I just love that. This isn't something personal for you. You have this huge crowd on the journey with you. And while this is an end to something that's been huge, I really see it as the beginning of something that's even greater. And so may God bless you to multiply your influence and extend it throughout Congo, Rwanda, and all of Africa. Congratulations.
Amen.
Yeah, I'd like to add just a couple of comments as well for my friend Cephas, and for those he's working with, and his whole family in Kigali. I assume that they still live in Rwanda. They're a wonderful family, and they are great servants of the Lord. And just congratulations for the announcement that's been made by your administrative committee. And we're grateful for that. And we look forward to hearing great things in the future as you continue to influence people like that crowd of people in the room with you today.
Yeah,
so we
that's right.
appreciate that very much. I did have a question to the committee. The version of the dissertation that I received, I think it's fairly recent, but there are still a number of typos in it. I don't know whether that's appropriate for my wife and I to help with that, or if that's something that should be left for others to work on.
That's always a good something to be done. Sometimes we ask a person, you have to pay an editor to go through and find any of the final grammatical issues. If there's somebody who's willing to work with him, that would be wonderful. So yeah, we want to make sure we have as polished a final version as possible.
Yeah. Part of the challenge was that, of course, I think his Microsoft Word version is for the French language. And so sometimes the spell checker indicates something is spelled incorrectly, but in the English it actually is right. So it's a little difficult sometimes to pick out the red lines and do the right things with them.
Right.
Exactly. I do see some of that connection between the French and English. Yeah.
So we doesn't always mean we, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Or means something different.
Yes, you are right.
Okay, I'm just going to add that to our comment section. Make sure final version is checked for typos, etc. Since I've got this on the screen, I'll just mention this, Cephas, because you'll see this recording. Like I said, we really did think you did a stellar job in terms of your dissertation. We always have some recommendations. First of all, we do need to have a section just called Add Research Questions after the purpose statement. And then also in the discussion chapter, just mention how how you felt the project answered those questions. And Dr. Koh can help you with that. The only other specific thing that we'd have you do would be, let's see, in the discussion chapter, having trouble highlighting these, okay. Yeah, in the discussion chapter, add a communication strategies section. You did mention one good communication strategy, I thought, in your PowerPoint presentation, and that was, the issue of, for example, don't call the existing the old and the new the new. That that kind of terminology can immediately put up a roadblock. It's, those kinds of skills that you learned about communication. If you could maybe just do a paragraph or two in the discussion chapter under, say, a title called Communication Strategies Learned, that would be very helpful to your reader. And then the other piece of that discussion chapter, if you could maybe add a few paragraphs under a section just called Recommendations for the Future. Just where you would like to see this process go in the future in terms of what you're doing there in your initiatives and any other future research. We did see 2 future issues that could possibly be added. One was, let's see, where did we write it? Oh, here we go. Okay, for future work, possibly focus on how the business community can fit into your vision. So you could just mention that under recommendations for the future, that you'd like to probably do more work on that in the future. Dr. Martine had one other recommendation, and since she has worked in Africa quite a bit, she wondered if the whole issue of the animistic influence would possibly be addressed in a future work. She saw that as maybe if you mentioned that in a limitations section that you did not deal with that particular issue within your dissertation, but that could be mentioned as something for the future, and you could just mention that even the limitations. That's you might even mention the limitations that it's 2 areas. You didn't deal with the animistic influence, and you didn't do too much with the business community. So you might just mention those both there. It just kind of helps, show the reader, what was and what wasn't addressed in this particular dissertation. Other than that, like we said, the project represented much creative thinking in terms of the abundant culture and the initiatives for the DR Congo. And I guess I just want to end on that note. Even with our recommendations, you've done just a great, great job. And I just appreciate your work, and just praying that the Lord is going to continue to bless those efforts. And I think, as we mentioned in the session, it would really be wonderful if some of you who are from BGU can kind of take the initiative to even maybe bring some of you together to keep talking about some of these issues that are very relevant for the continent of Africa. And I just pray that the dialogue will continue on, and that dialogue will get translated into real initiatives that take place in some of the various countries.
Great. So with
All
that, we
right.
can say congratulations, Dr. Kwambiliwa. Is
That's
that
right.
correct, Bill? Well done.
Amen. All right. Well, maybe one of you could pray for Cephas, and then we'll close out the session.
Sam, why don't you do us the pleasure of that?
Okay. Our Father and our glorious God, we give you thanks for this session, and I want to thank you for BGU and for the faculty and the administration, Father, of those who are working to bring true holistic transformation globally. We are so grateful for this work, this ideas of developing leaders who can bring about your vision, O Lord, of complete restoration and transformation through spiritual and social and many other kinds of means, that people may know that you are the true God, the only God. And we are grateful for the people who have helped Cephas through this project. I want to thank you for his personal sacrifice, living a long way from his family and not getting to be with them very often. We pray that you bless him as he continues to use what he has learned through this project to become someone who influences people in many, many places. We pray that you bless him as he has learned how to be a transformational leader. And we pray that you bless his efforts there as he's working in the government of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. We pray that you bless this as it moves across the continent, Father. We know that there are many, many people who need to hear and to understand more fully what you have in mind to bless the nations that you have created on earth, because we know that we are living out the promises that you made millennia ago, that you wanted to bless the nations of the world. We thank you for this in the powerful name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 All right.
So Bill, you're going to go ahead and send a link to this recorded session to Cephas?
I will do that, yes.
Excellent. All right. And I'll send him an email just to assure him that he got a passing grade.
Good. All right. Yeah. Well,
Bill will have that form to sign, right? You'll send that.
I'll
sign.
finish filling out, checking for typos and things, then I'll send that out to Larry and Steve and myself.
All
We
right.
sign that, and then I'll copy that all to Judy, and we'll get that all taken care of.
Good.
Excellent. All right. Great.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Okay.
you, everybody, for joining us.
Good luck with your oral review, Murphy. I hope you do okay.
Thank you. I'm a little bit nervous because his was so good. So
He set a high bar.
You've been doing some good work too. I've been following your stuff, so yeah. Don't worry about that at all.
Thanks. His was impressive. So
All right.
anyway, thanks everyone.
All right.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.